Joining me now is Niren Chaudhary, CEO Panera Bread. And Niren, how does Panera plan on accomplishing this ambitious goal?
Thank you. It's good to be here. Well, as you know, climate change is the single biggest challenge that we confront together. And I passionately believe that we all have to do a lot more. I think thus far, the commitments have been around companies and governments wanting to be carbon neutral by 2050. I really think that that is not going to be good enough, and we have to do more. So therefore, we are announcing and committing at Panera that we want to be climate positive by 2050. But I also think that even that, having a long-term target, is not enough. I think we have to do a lot more right now and more urgently. So at Panera, we began the journey in 2016. And since then, we have reduced our carbon footprint by over 20%. But we are now again raising our ambition and saying we have to do a lot more and more urgently. So therefore, I want to share with you 3 commitments that we are making that we wish to achieve by 2025. So not only wait till 2050, but in the near term, we need to get after this. So the first one is that at Panera, we will be 100% circular packaging by 2025, which means all our packaging will be reusable, renewable, or compostable. That's the first one. The second one is that at least 50% of our energy in company cafes will be green, solar, or wind by 2025. And the third commitment that we're making is that by 2025, at least 60% of our food, our menu, will be climate friendly, or what we call cool food with low carbon footprint and emission. So those are the 3 commitments I wanted to share with you today, that we all collectively need to do a lot more, elevate our ambition to not only being neutral, but positive, and then raise our ambition to be able to deliver on something more urgently in the near term, which is what we intend to do.
What kind of challenges could Panera face when it comes to increasing menu size while at the same time decreasing their carbon footprint?
Well, I think fortunately, we are the first fast casual brand that has measured the carbon footprint of the food that we serve to identify that almost half of our food already is climate friendly. And the reason why that is that we have a very balanced pantry with vegetables and rice and grains and proteins, and our recipes are very balanced. And therefore, almost half of our menu already is climate friendly. We want to take that further to 60%. And the good thing at Panera is that you don't have to sacrifice taste or craveability, and ensuring at the same time that the food that we serve is climate friendly. So intrinsic to who we are, our food is already, climate friendly, and we intend to expand that repertoire as we go forward.
Now, when it comes to the labor shortage, it has hit the food industry fairly hard. So what are ways that Panera is looking to recruit talent and also keep talent?
Yeah, that's a significant single biggest challenge that we're all confronting today. So I think there are 2 important things that we're doing. One, we're eliminating all our barriers for our cafes, making sure that the single most important objective right now is keep all our cafes open, fully staffed, all our channels open, and really serve our guests as best as we can. And to ensure that we are able to do that, we're investing behind, wages, ensuring we have adequate management cover, ensuring that we give enough time for training to our cafe general managers and associates, and that we also put in place appropriate incentives to recognize them for doing all the hard work that they do every single day. So eliminating barriers and also investing behind it is the way in which we're attacking it. But I think in the midterm, this war for talent will require our companies and others to really up our game on strengthening our employee value proposition so that we become the employer of choice in a holistic way. So it's not only about wage, it's also how we treat people, the culture, internal growth opportunities, development, training, and so forth.
So what else can restaurants do to not only, I want to get back to the climate thing, not only combat climate change, but also ensure that they're not adding to it?
Well, I think, the 4 levers that I think restaurant chains and companies in general in this industry need to think about and attack are firstly the food that we serve. So I really hope that other industry peers in the industry are also going to start measuring the carbon footprint and impact of what they serve, the food that they serve to our consumers. And if they measure it, they'll be able to then become more responsible with it. Secondly, I think second area is around transportation. How do we optimize the transportation around in the ecosystem of our restaurants. The third is energy utilization inside our cafes. How do you really optimize that? And fourth, of course, is packaging. So those are the four levers that other industry peers can also be looking at, as are we, to get after these targets that I shared.
What would you say the biggest surprise Panera faced when the pandemic kicked off and during the pandemic? What was the biggest thing that surprised Panera, and how did you guys pivot or overcome the obstacle that the pandemic created?
So I think with the pandemic, our whole mindset was, this is a major disruption. How can we use this as a catalyst to really become stronger? And by serving our guests and understanding their needs and doing that better than anybody else. So I think through the pandemic, we did a bunch of things. Firstly, we simplified our menu dramatically. Secondly, we made a sharp pivot to becoming more off-premise because that's where the consumer demand was. So a lot more delivery, catering, takeout, drive-throughs, and so forth. So our off-premise business went from about 60% to 85%.
No.
And then we also stepped up our e-commerce convenience for our guests. Our e-commerce went up from about 30% to almost 50% right now is e-commerce driven. So simpler, more off-premise, more digital. And finally, we did some rapid fire innovation. So we launched the coffee subscription program and then also the flatbread pizza, serving the needs of our guests. The guests were clearly looking for hot meal solutions for the family, for the dinner occasion and the weekend. And I think so the learning has been, to utilize any significant transformation or disruption as an opportunity to get better by innovating, by understanding where the guests are at, what they're looking for, and doing that better than anybody else.
Niren Chaudhary, CEO of Panera Bread. Sir, thank you so much for being with us and joining us today.